An explosive Senate report about the Biden family has revealed something shocking. Children of politicians might be corrupt. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. We're just 5 weeks from the U.S. presidential election, and Republicans in the Senate have just so happened to have come out with a new, damning report about presidential candidate Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. What a coincidence. Election years are just full of coincidences, like having an impeachment trial in an election year, which is actually somewhat related to this story. I'll get to that in a moment. But the Senate Republicans' report says that Hunter Biden, his family, and business partner Devon Archer received millions of dollars from foreign nationals with questionable backgrounds. I know what you're thinking. Why can't I get millions of dollars from foreign nationals with questionable backgrounds? The answer is because your dad's not important. Now, according to the Senate report, U.S. Treasury records show potential criminal activity relating to transactions among and between Hunter Biden, his family, and his associates with Ukrainian, Russian, Kazakh, and Chinese nationals. Which sounds like a great plot for the next season of Jack Ryan, but a not-so-great plot for the next season of Joe Biden. So, why were people the Senate report calls foreign nationals with questionable backgrounds giving millions of dollars to the Biden family? Well, that's the question this report was supposed to answer. How is it that Hunter Biden ended up with very lucrative arrangements in Ukrainian natural gas and Chinese finance when he had no particular expertise in Ukrainian natural gas or Chinese finance? Did it have something to do with the fact that he had a father leading U.S. policy in these countries? The Senate report raises the issue of a potential conflict of interest there. But a conflict of interest is not itself illegal. What would be illegal is if Joe Biden used his position as vice president to affect U.S. foreign policy to benefit his son. Now, conservative media have had a field day with some of the more salacious findings of the report. In particular, the prostitution and human trafficking ring Hunter Biden was supposedly linked to. Fox News' Sean Hannity says the report's findings should immediately disqualify Joe Biden from presidency. But the New York Times says that the report absolves Joe Biden of any wrongdoing. And to an extent, that is true. The report is very clear that it found no evidence that, as vice president, Joe Biden manipulated U.S. foreign policy to benefit his son. There are, however, some coincidences, some very convenient coincidences that ended up benefiting Hunter Biden. So it's clear the Senate Republicans are hoping that you'll look at the report and think, where there's smoke, there's fire, and blame Joe Biden by association and then vote for Trump instead. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the major findings in the report after the short break. Welcome back. So let's look at the major findings of the Senate report, starting with Ukrainian energy company Burisma Holdings. This is the part of the story that ties into the whole impeachment thing, because Trump was impeached for supposedly trying to get the president of Ukraine to dig up information on Hunter Biden. So bear with me as I give some background. And you can check out my previous episode. In 2014, President Obama put Vice President Biden in charge of U.S. relations with Ukraine. And then, total coincidence, not long after that, the Ukrainian natural gas company Burisma Holdings Limited gave Hunter Biden a lucrative seat on their board. Now, some people might say this is suspicious because Hunter Biden had no experience in natural gas and energy. But Burisma's holding could just be a big believer in on-the-job training. Very generous on-the-job training, because according to the Senate report, Hunter and his business partner Devin Archer made $4 million on the board of directors. Now, the funny thing about Burisma, it was in the middle of being investigated for corruption when they brought on Hunter. Ukraine's Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin was even at one point planning on questioning Hunter Biden about money he got from Burisma. Now, totally separate from that, Joe Biden tried to get the president of Ukraine to fire Shokin. And firing Shokin was tied to whether or not Biden would approve a $1 billion U.S. loan guarantee to Ukraine.
I said, no, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time.
Now that sounds bad. But the Washington Post says it really isn't that bad. Because what Joe Biden said happened isn't true. He just managed to squeeze months of diplomacy into a few hours when he recounted the story years later at the Council on Foreign Relations. The Washington Post says that Biden did link firing Shokin to getting the loan guarantee, but that it took months of diplomacy to get that done, plus Ukraine putting in a new prosecutor general and agreeing to other reforms before the U.S. gave Ukraine the money. So yeah, according to the Washington Post, you just can't believe what Joe Biden says all the time because he exaggerates for dramatic effect. Wait a minute. Does this mean the corn pop story might not be true? My world is shattered. Okay, back to Ukraine. To be clear, Shokin was very corrupt, and a lot of countries were calling for him to be fired. There was nothing wrong with Joe Biden wanting Shokin gone. But since Shokin was also investigating the company Hunter Biden worked for, you can see how this could look suspicious. All that is old news. What is new from the report is that the Obama administration knew that Hunter Biden's position on Burisma's board was problematic and did interfere in the efficient execution of policy with respect to Ukraine. Those warnings came from George Kent, the former acting deputy chief of mission at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, and State Department official Amos Hochstein. Kent's concern was that it was kind of awkward talking to Ukrainian officials about anti-corruption when the vice president's son sits on the board of a corrupt Ukrainian natural gas company. Hochstein had a different concern that he brought up directly with Joe Biden. According to Hochstein, he raised this issue with Vice President Biden because he was concerned that the Russians were using Hunter Biden's role with Burisma to sow disinformation. The Senate report concludes that both of those warnings appear to have fallen on deaf ears. But again, that's not proof that Joe Biden did anything wrong. In fact, Kent said in testimony last year that he did not witness any efforts by any U.S. official to shield Burisma from scrutiny. So that's the Ukraine part of Hunter Biden's millions from foreign individuals. Next up, Russia. Hunter got millions from a questionable Russian billionaire. Hunter Biden's company received a $3.5 million wire transfer from a Russian billionaire. That billionaire was Elena Baturina, the richest woman in Russia. She's also the widow of the former mayor of Moscow. In fact, she became super rich because of the plastics company that she owned, which just so happened to get a series of municipal contracts in Moscow when her husband was mayor. Probably just a coincidence. In 2014, Baturina wired $3.5 million to Rosemont Seneca Thornton. That's an investment firm co-founded by Hunter Biden in 2013. Separately, Baturina sent 11 wire transfers that ended up at a now bankrupt company called BAK USA. BAK USA was a startup technology company headquartered in Buffalo, New York, that produced tablet computers in cooperation with unnamed Chinese business partners. 9 of those 11 wire transfers first went through Rosemont Seneca Thornton. So why did Elena Baturina trust Biden's company with all this money? The Senate report doesn't say specifically. The transfers were marked loan agreement and consultancy agreement, which is too bad because I think we all want to know how to get a billionaire to send us money. Unlike Hunter Biden, some of us still have student loans. But anyway, just because this particular Russian billionaire sent millions of dollars to Hunter Biden's company doesn't mean Joe Biden has done anything wrong. But I think the report's authors would really like you to imagine that, since it's an election year. As for the next big reveal, Hunter Biden's China connections. This is something we've talked about on the show before. For a full rundown, check out my episode, The China Deal for Joe Biden's Son. But in short, Rosemont Seneca Partners, a company founded by Hunter Biden and John Kerry's stepson, Christopher Hines, was working with Chinese business partners on a new company. They needed approval from the Chinese Communist government. In December 2013, Hunter Biden joined his father on a trip to China. Hunter introduced his father to his Chinese business partner where they publicly shook hands. And in China, if a businessman gets to shake hands with the Vice President of the United States, that means something.
What we now know is that 10 days after they returned from that trip, Hunter Biden's small investment firm announced a $1.5 billion private equity deal with the Chinese government. It was an unusual deal. It was done through the Shanghai Free Trade Zone. And in fact, Brett, no other major investment firm had this, not Deutsche Bank, not Goldman, not JP Morgan. So it was a highly, highly unusual deal.
What a coincidence. Here's another coincidence. This new company with ties to the Chinese government was later able to buy a U.S. auto parts maker. That had to be approved by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFIUS. CFIUS makes sure business deals don't end up becoming a national security risk. John Kerry, who was Secretary of State at the time, sat on the CFIUS committee. CFIUS approved the deal, and that happened to benefit Joe Biden's son and possibly Kerry's own stepson. Just a coincidence. The Senate report says that while that gives the appearance of a potential conflict of interest, they could find no proof that anything illegal happened. It's just a coincidence. But the report did find other interesting connections between Hunter Biden and China, such as extensive financial connections among and between Hunter Biden, James Biden, Joe Biden's brother, his wife Sarah Biden, Devon Archer, and Chinese nationals connected to the communist regime and its military, the People's Liberation Army. Those associations resulted in millions of dollars in cash flow, and according to the report, some of those transactions could be possibly illegal. Really? I mean, Communist Party officials, they seem like such great guys. Right, Joe?
They're not bad folks.
Just a coincidence. And the other big shocker? Human sex trafficking links, which I'll get to after this short break. Welcome back. And now, the bigger headline grabber, prostitution and sex trafficking links. Now, headlines like this clearly are designed to make you think Hunter Biden was paying money for prostitutes and involved in sex trafficking, which is not true. And that's why you shouldn't get your news from headlines. The report does not say Hunter Biden was involved in human sex trafficking. Neither does it actually accuse him of paying for prostitutes. It says this: the records note that it is a documented fact that Hunter Biden has sent funds to non-resident alien women in the United States who are citizens of Russia and Ukraine, and who have subsequently wired funds they have received from Hunter Biden to individuals located in Russia and Ukraine. The records also note that some of these transactions are linked to what appears to be an Eastern European prostitution or human trafficking ring. But that doesn't mean Hunter Biden did anything illegal by sending money to those foreign women, or that he even knew about those women's alleged links to prostitution or human trafficking rings. In fact, nothing in this Senate report proves any kind of illegal activity on the part of Hunter or Joe Biden. It just found that Hunter Biden was getting lucrative business deals in China and Ukraine, while his father, as vice president, was dealing with those countries on a political level, and that Hunter sent money to Eastern European women who then may have used the money for something shady. The Senate report has obviously been slammed by Democrats. Biden campaign spokesman Andrew Bates criticized the report for taking away taxpayer dollars that could have been spent fighting the coronavirus, even though the investigation began before the coronavirus. Actually, even before the Trump impeachment hearings. Bates also said the report was founded on a long disproven hardcore right-wing conspiracy theory. Yes, those hardcore right-wing conspiracy nuts who believe politicians are corrupt. Other Democrats are saying this is all Russian disinformation. Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said the report reads as if Putin wrote it, not United States senators. No, if Putin wrote it, it would have accused Hunter Biden of looking unmanly while riding a horse shirtless. Anyway, Chuck Schumer said Senate Republicans found no evidence to support the conspiracy theories pushed by Putin's intelligence agents. And in a way, Schumer is correct. Because of the report, we now know more about Joe Biden's son's questionable, but not necessarily illegal dealings. But it doesn't prove Joe Biden himself did anything wrong. And I don't really think it will affect the upcoming election, because honestly, have any of you really not made up your mind yet about who you're voting for? And now, I'd just like to ask you, if you enjoy the show, be sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and support America Uncovered on the crowdfunding website Patreon. All it takes is $1 an episode to help us keep making the show. So what do you think of the Senate report? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.